Good morning. I'm State Representative Andy Thompson, and I'm here today to speak about House Concurrent Resolution 10. This is an issue which deals with, condemns anti-Semitism, also supports protecting free speech on campus, but it's an issue related to attempts to intimidate Jewish students and also supporters of Israel on college campuses. Now, this is a resolution, and sometimes people say, well, do resolutions matter? Are they relevant? And the answer is yes and yes. We want to give a sense of the Ohio legislature that this is a country that we stand with. These are values that we cherish and treasure. Anti-Semitism is not just in existence, but it is a growing threat on college campuses and across the state of Ohio. Today we will have other speakers who will talk about the history of the Holocaust and why we don't want to see that ever happen again. We'll also talk about some of the documenting some of the things that are going on campuses here across the state of Ohio, and it is really very disturbing when you learn the extent of what is going on college campuses in Ohio. So the goal of HCR10 is to announce that the Ohio legislature does stand strong with its longtime ally and friend, the state of Israel. We stand with the Jewish community in making sure that, beginning with boycotts, they don't move on to much darker outcomes for the Jewish people. Free speech on campus should be protected, and that's a critical component of House Concurrent Resolution 10. But fundamentally, I'm a strong supporter of Israel. Israel is a matter that transcends politics and partisanship, and for generations we have been friends and strong allies. So this is a movement, we shouldn't kid ourselves, the BDS movement, which stands for Boycott, Disinvestment, and Sanction, is about wiping Israel off the map. And if we do not stand strongly and firmly against that, if we do not insist that our campuses protect the rights of Jewish students and allies of Israel, we could potentially face much darker outcomes. And we will again talk about that in this press conference today. I'm very blessed to have as my joint sponsor Representative Dave Greenspan. He's from the Cuyahoga County area. He was not able to be with us today because of some obligations back in his district, but Representative Greenspan joins me and more than 26 co-sponsors on this bill. And so at this point I'd like to have Bill White come forward and read a statement from Representative Greenspan.
I wish to thank my joint sponsor, Representative Thompson, for bringing this important piece of legislation forward, as well to our various co-sponsors for the support of standing against bigotry, oppression, discrimination, and injustice against the state of Israel and our college campuses. As a young child, I remember fondly the time, efforts, and energy that my family, and more specifically, my grandmother, invested in providing support for the state of Israel. My grandmother was a tireless advocate for the state of Israel and worked throughout the United States for decades, making trips to Israel and traveling along the continental U.S., drawing much needed attention at the time to Israeli issues. She was instrumental in New Jersey on this subject and served on the New Jersey-Israeli Commission for 2 governors, one Republican and one Democrat, because supporting Israel is not a partisan issue, it's a moral issue. It is through this strong foundational belief that I willingly agreed to support this resolution. One of many core beliefs that my grandmother instilled in me was acceptance. Acceptance towards others' opinions, values, and positions. 3 core values that I strive towards are honesty, respect, and compassion. Unfortunately, these beliefs and values are not shared by all. On our college campuses, bastions of free speech, personal growth, and development are increasingly experiencing threats, acts of violence, and deliberate interference with the learning environment, not only for American and Israeli students, but all students. This resolution sends a strong message to our state and federal leaders that the Ohio General Assembly supports peace, justice, equality, democracy, and human rights for all people in the Middle East, and that in the United States we condemn all attacks against people of Israel and against those who support Israel, regardless of their national origin, religion, or beliefs. Thank you.
Very grateful to Representative Greenspan for his support. At this point, I'd like to bring forward Chris Long, who is with the Ohio Christian Alliance. And Chris, will you step forward? Chris has been a strong supporter of Israel as well, and we're very grateful to have the support of the Ohio Christian Alliance.
Thank you, Representative. Good morning, all. We want to thank the sponsors of this bill, Representative Andy Thompson, Representative David Greenspan, and the 26 co-sponsors who support HCR10. Today we stand before the Ohio Holocaust Liberators Memorial to draw attention to a serious growing problem in the state of Ohio, with the increased incidence of anti-Semitism on Ohio college campuses. This memorial was erected in observance to those Holocaust survivors that made Ohio their home after the war, and to the military personnel who were their liberators from the concentration camps some 70 years ago. The Ohio Christian Alliance is pleased to lend its support to the resolution that Representatives Andy Thompson and David Greenspan, along with 25 other co-sponsors, have signed on to this resolution to condemn the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement against the State of Israel and to condemn increasing incidents of anti-Semitism on Ohio college campuses. We are here to remind the people of the state of Ohio that the Holocaust began with boycotts and discrimination. In 1933, the German government enacted a series of anti-Jewish laws restricting the rights of German Jews to earn a living, to enjoy full citizenship, and to gain education, and to work in the civil service. The subsequent 1935 Nuremberg laws stripped German Jews of their citizenship and forbade Jews to marry non-Jewish Germans. These laws resulted in the exclusion of Jews from social and political life. These boycotts culminated in the Night of Terror on November 9th, 1938, known as Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass, in which Jewish-owned businesses, homes, and synagogues were ransacked and burned. Many Jews were beaten and lost their lives that night. It is estimated that that night 30,000 Jewish men were rounded up, incarcerated, and sent to the concentration camps. This was the beginning of the Holocaust. The recent boycotts and sanctions movement by some groups on college campuses in Ohio have created an atmosphere of fear and intimidation of Jewish students. As the State of Israel has been targeted, Jews specifically, those liberators for whom this memorial is partly erected in their honor would be ashamed to hear that this is happening again. For they were the eyewitnesses of the atrocities as they liberated the concentration camps in Europe. Many who served with them died for the sake of liberty. Our organization is working on an effort to add FDR's D-Day landing prayer in its entirety at the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. President Roosevelt announced to the nation by way of radio on June 6, 1944, that the liberation of Europe was underway, and he asked for the nation to join with him in prayer. He began by saying, "Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity." He closed with these words, "With thy blessing we shall prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. Help us to conquer the apostles of greed and racial arrogances. Lead us to the saving of our country, and with our sister nations into a world unity that will spell a sure peace, a peace invulnerable to the schemings of unworthy men, and a peace that will let all men live in freedom, reaping their just rewards of their honest toil. Thy will be done, Almighty God." After the war in 1946, one of the Jewish synagogues was rebuilt in Berlin. It has to this day a plaque on it that reads, "Never forget." That's why we're here today, to stand with the State of Israel and with American Jews, that they will never have to face that ridicule and persecution again. And for that reason, we are proud to support HCR10 today to condemn the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement against Israel and to condemn increasing incidents of anti-Semitism on Ohio college campuses. Thank you, Representative.
At this point, I'd like to welcome forward Michael Goldstein. He's with a group called Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, and that group deserves a lot of credit for this resolution. 9 states have passed similar resolutions, so we'd like for Ohio to be the 10th state to do so. And so at this point, I'd like to welcome forward Michael Goldstein.
Thank you. Hello everyone. Again, my name is Michael Goldstein. I'm the State of Ohio Director of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, a Christian group dedicated to educating Christians as to their biblical duty to support the State of Israel and the Jewish people. And I would like to talk to you about the nitty-gritty of what's going on our college campuses. What Chris Long spoke about from the Ohio Christian Alliance about what happened in Germany in the 1930s explains how it came to be that a supposedly civilized nation could murder 6 million Jews and of course 6 million other people. But it all starts with anti-Semitism, which was endemic in the German society. And all of the things that Chris talked about did happen, but the purpose of that, in addition to the horrible propaganda that was put out by Germany, which is very similar to the BDS propaganda on our campuses today, was meant to dehumanize the Jews of Germany. So when it came time for the final solution, the Germans didn't feel they were really murdering human beings, they were just killing subhumans. That's the way they thought. And we need to nip that in the bud here in Ohio by starting with the campuses, trying to get rid of the anti-Semitism, because that's where it all starts. On campus, what the BDS organizations are doing is they've carried out an array of intolerant activities to silence Jewish and pro-Israel voices, many of them Christian, most frequently through the attempted cancellation, shutting down, or disruption of pro-Israel events, but also through the vilification and intimidation of Jewish and pro-Israel groups and individuals with the clear intention of delegitimizing their perspective, their point of view, or causing them to be too afraid or uncomfortable to express it. This is not just a Jewish problem. This is an American problem relating to the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. You will see when you go through your draft of HCR10 that there is a very strong pro-First Amendment provision near the end of it. And what is going on our campuses now with BDS fits under the State Department definition of anti-Semitism and also the definition put out by the United States Commission on Civil Rights. So this is why HCR10 is so important. There's an organization called AMCHA, A-M-C-H-A. The AMCHA Initiative is a nonprofit organization dedicated to investigating, documenting, educating about, and combating anti-Semitism at institutions of higher learning, higher education in America. And these are some, I'm not going to do a lot of them, but there are a few statistics that you should know. One of the 2 reports I'll talk about is called Anti-Semitism at the Epicenter of Campus Intolerance. It's the report for 2016, which came out in April of 2017. It shows, one of the tables talks about schools with the largest increase in anti-Semitic activity from 2015 to 2016. And out of, I think, 12 universities, the Ohio State University makes that list. Number of incidents of overall anti-Semitic activity occurring in 2015 and 2016, and percent increase. Overall, nationally, the increase in anti-Semitic incidents on campus is 40% from 1915 to 1916. This is a large problem that isn't going away. And then schools with the largest incidence of overall anti-Semitic activity, targeting of Jewish students for harm, anti-Semitic expression, and BDS activity in 2016. Ohio State University makes the list of highest overall anti-Semitic activity,
coming in 8th out of about 20, and coming in 5th out of about 20 for highest incidence of BDS activity on campus. And for everyone's information, Oberlin College made the list of the highest incidence of anti-Semitic expression on campus. The second report I want to talk about is their anti-Semitism tracker. I have the URLs for people if they want them later, but you can go online, click on your state, any state you want to look at, and they'll list the largest universities there and list all of the anti-Semitic incidents. When I take it to a group where I'm speaking, I put it out with the handouts, and people are just thumbing through it looking for their favorite college while they're waiting for the event to start. It's a page turner, but it's a sickening page turner. And then there is the Canary Mission report on anti-Semitism in Northern Ohio, which came out in April 2017. What the Canary Mission people did, the canary in the coal mine is the reference, they looked at and analyzed 20 students' social media posts and sorted them out as to anti-Israel posts, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic posts, anti-black posts, and anti-gay posts. Melina has some copies of about 3 pages of it, which lists the names of the many of the BDS groups on campus. But if you look at the full report, you will have to have a strong stomach to look at what these people posted. And for both of these organizations, there's never been any inkling, any report that their data is inaccurate. So I think that's important. Now, I'm only going to talk about one specific incident, and that's what happened at Ohio University in 2014. There was the president of the Student Senate named Megan Marzek was a big BDS person, and she was president of the Senate. And I know we've all heard of the ice bucket challenge for ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, to raise money. She took that vehicle and created something different. She called it the Bucket of Blood Challenge, and she poured a bucket of blood over her head. This was all videoed. The video was later taken down. And when she did it, she said, and I'm quoting her from her video, "As Student Senate President, I'm sending a message of student concern about the genocide in Gaza and the occupation of Palestine by the Israel state." Of course, none of that is true because none of it has happened. And then she endorsed the BDS movement. About a week later, there was a student senate meeting. They were in session, and 4 Jewish students arrived to protest the student senate's allegations because she did them as the president of the Senate, and they called for her resignation. Well, they were offered 18 minutes to talk, and 3 minutes into their talk, she told them they had to stop talking because other students had to talk. They kept talking about their protest, and then the Ohio University campus police came and told them they had to stop talking in 2 minutes. They continued to talk. They were arrested by the campus police and led off in handcuffs. While they were talking, a chant was led by many of the Student Senate members referring to the Jewish students, repeating phrases such as "this meeting is being hijacked by fascists" and "shame on the bullies." So they were arrested and taken off, charged with crimes that could have resulted in at least 6 months in prison. A week later, the Senate met again, and the student treasurer of the Student Senate, a man named Carter Phillips, gave his resignation in the open meeting. And here's what he had to say about the event with the Jewish students a week before. Carter Phillips stated, "We disrupt them when they're speaking. We chant when they sit down. We have them arrested for speaking out. All legitimacy we had went out the door in handcuffs last Wednesday. This is no longer a government, it is a circus." Well, I'm very proud that he did that. But this is the sort of thing that is being faced by Jewish students and Christian Zionists and just supportive Christians across the nation. We don't want to see it in Ohio. We want to see it nipped in the bud, and that's why HCR10 is so vitally important to telling our campuses and the administrators and the trustees that they have to get their act together. Remember, the event at Ohio University was facilitated by the school administration because the students were arrested by campus police and administrators were on site. Never should have happened. But I want to thank you for your attention, and I'll turn it back over to Representative Thompson.
Thank you, Michael. So this remains a very, very serious and significant concern on our college campuses, and again, that's the purpose of this resolution. We also are blessed today to have Rabbi Goldstein, no relation to Michael as far as we can tell, but he is from a local synagogue and also serves on the governor's commission, I believe, and his faith-based commission. So if you would come forward, please, and share some of your observations.
Thank you so much, Representative Thompson. First of all, on behalf of the American Jewish community, I'd like to offer our thanks for the bipartisan support of this very important legislation from the Ohio legislature on behalf of the state of Israel and against BDS. It's deeply appreciated by our community. We stand on the eve of the holiest day of the Jewish year, which is Yom Kippur. Tomorrow evening, Jews across the world will enter synagogues and approach God on this holiest Yom Kippur. And so I'd like to talk to you just for a moment about what that day is about. Do you know what comprises the essence of that prayer, of the prayers that we offer on the holiest day of the year? We talk about what Jews did in the temple in Jerusalem, in other words, the Western Wall, the Temple Mount, what they did 2,000 and 3,000 years ago. We chronicle, we replicate, we describe everything that occurred and how Jews have been worshiping God there, teaching morality, teaching monotheism as a light unto the nations for millennia. That's what the essence of Yom Kippur is. That is what we do in our synagogues for at least an hour or two of a very, very long service. And that's what the state of Israel continues today. You see, the problem with BDS is not only that it's anti-Semitic, as was mentioned, because it unfairly singles out Israel as if it was the world's largest human rights violator. Not only is it anti-Semitic, not only does it quash free speech, as we heard, but it's factually untrue. It's demonstrably untrue. You see, the state of Israel is the lone democracy in the Middle East. It does the utmost to preserve human rights and freedom for all of its inhabitants, regardless of race, gender, or religious affiliation. The state of Israel is really a remarkably shining example which should be lauded across the world. And so today it gives me great privilege and honor to be standing on the eve of our holiest day of the year at this remarkable monument to the Holocaust and to those who came before us, and once again in appreciation to the legislator. And I'll end with a New Year's blessing from the Jewish people. May God bless the Ohio legislator, the state of Ohio, the United States of America, and the state of Israel.
Thank you so much, Rabbi, for that blessing. At this point, if you have any questions, we'd be glad to try to do our best to answer those regarding the resolution.
Are there any current threats out there that are high-level threats? Yeah.
Michael maybe has been monitoring this a little more directly.
I try to watch for things like that. I did 30 years in the Navy as an intelligence officer, and I try to apply those standards to whatever I do. I know of no active threats of violence. If you're talking about violence in Ohio, the threat is to our United States Constitution and to the students on campus who want to be there, exercise their free speech rights, and get an education. And the threat is also of lawsuits. There's been a lawsuit filed in California against San Francisco State University, whose problems were much worse than ours here, because the university was aiding and abetting, the allegation is, the BDS movement on campus, and shutting down, the university was shutting down Jewish groups. But the lawsuit is pursuant to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And we don't need that sort of thing here in Ohio. We don't believe in the things that were going on at San Francisco State University and some of our universities here. So there is a threat of legal action, certainly. But that's to fix the problem they have out there. We want to avoid the problem here as much as we can. But no active kinetic threats, as we would say, that I know of. I hope I'm not proven wrong.
And again, legislatively, we've had our sponsor hearing, and we hope to have additional hearings and passage in the Ohio House. We have talked with Senator Eklund in the Ohio Senate, and he would be handling it on that side. So if there are no further questions, I don't see any in the audience. Thank you so much.